Yo, what is up, everybody? Hello, Aaron. Hello, anybody that's tuned in live with us. It's
Yo,
a little bit of a late start tonight, but it's actually going to be like kind of a quick finish for me. I have like this, I have like a pinched nerve problem in like my back right now.
oh,
And
no kidding.
it's kind of like over the last like 20 minutes, kind of fucking flared up. And like I honestly feel kind of short of breath. So I'm like, I'm only going to be here for a few, and then I'm going to have Jen work on my back so that I
Yeah, no
feel better.
kidding. Okay.
And yeah. So
Well,
what
speaking
have you been up
speaking
to?
of nerves and nervous system, yeah, I was just I came from this doing classes on Friday night with Angela. Angela's doing classes, half a dozen or so, and they're doing the thing is so this week going in specifically doing like psychic surgery, and she went through the concepts, and then also a really awesome guided meditation. Like probably like 45 minutes to an hour, but going through a lot of different parts of the spine and the nerves, and kind of funny. So yeah, pinched nerve, but we're going through. It's like getting into a focus state of being able to actually engage. So not like the hypnagogia or just in between, where you're actually really engaged and really viscerally engaged with the internal
Mhm.
imagery and all that dynamics, and then repairing things and just it like there's a lot of in the framework she uses. There's a lot of it's very triggering in positive ways. Like it's very triggering, like cognitive processes or ways of perceiving it or interactions. I feel like with that imagery and your own internal realities in ways that really unique and beneficial, and it's cool. It's really good. So yeah, that's what I was up to right before this.
I found a lot of benefit out of the old hypnagogic states or hypnopoptic, either one, like waking up or just before sleep. Either way,
That's right.
they're
That's the
pretty good.
difference between the two.
Seems like there's a lot of power in that. Like I guess you could call it space between for sure.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? It's almost like maybe it's like that spot's the uh room temperature superconductor. When you can hit that spot, so you kind of flux
True.
in and out of that space. But like if you could just get in that space, that's the spot to be for a cognitive, like conscious, psychic level interaction with life.
Yeah. I think that's like the most objective position that we can really obtain is one that's kind of like a floating center point balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could call
I
it
had
that
this thought.
room temperature superconductor.
Yeah, I had this thought during the meditation actually, or that engagement. What if so like there, let's say I think because like in the middle of your spinal cord, if I remember right, there's this really super tiny tube right up the very center of your spinal cord.
I believe that's
And
true.
well, and so what if in that tube, I think there's fluid, obviously, but if like there's some kind of resonance that travels up that like a Bernoulli tube or one of those tubes, like you change the size of the tube and you change the node, I mean organs, all that kind of stuff, right? So big pipe organs and things. Um, but if in the length of your spinal cord, not just the length, but the very specific to you biology, maybe the uniqueness of your spinal cord, maybe it's as unique as your fingerprint or all those things. There's an actual frequency, like string theory of you, your own signature frequency. There's something that has to do with like some kind of frequency that resides in your spinal cord
Sure.
that's like a super legit thing that matters.
Yeah. Even if it wasn't inside, like you got to isolate it to that cavity. Just we're such a high percentage of our body is water or aqueous that like
Mm,
that resonance could kind of just exist inside of us. Not
mm.
bounded by this smaller thing. Might be in there too. I don't know. I'm not a spineyologist, so I'm not sure.
Spineyologist.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
don't
a
know what it's
thing? It
actually
might
called.
be.
I don't know what it's actually called. Osteopath, maybe something like that. Maybe they're the
Ah,
spine
the
guy. I
bone.
don't really know.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh,
I think things have gotten specific enough nowadays that I'm sure there's a really specific niche field for
that's why I just went
spineyology.
with spineyologist. It's
Yeah.
good enough. Someone
It's
would probably know what
probably
you're
true.
talking about. They'd just be like, "You're a dumbass. You mean an osteopath? Yeah, here's the number." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Or it's like you just say confidently, move on, be like, is there a spineyologist? Now I need to look into it because it sounds like that's a thing. Unfortunately,
yeah,
Google can betray us right away if that's not.
yeah. I don't think people understand the difference between a lot of stuff too. Like because they, well, functionally, they kind of like don't have respect for what like another person does, but it's really just
Mm,
because they're not really very educated towards what the other person does. Like hypothetical situations, someone is like confused between whether a person is like a massage therapist or a chiropractor, right? Like,
Hmm.
well, they're kind of like vastly different things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a chiropractor is functionally a doctor, and they've had like specific training for working with the spine and all this stuff. And like a massage therapist, really to function like that doesn't really need much training at all, you know, technically. So
Yeah.
while there's just like a big difference, and a person I think like in a situation like that, you would expect to have like vastly different expectations from what you're going to experience with those two different people or with
Hmm.
those two different like whatever practitioners, right? But
Yeah.
like I mean apparently in some people's minds it's close enough that they're like unsure which one they're going to be engaging with. You know what I mean? Which I mean, like, I
Right.
guess I can get it. Like, works on my body is works on my body, right? And like,
I think the difference is maybe people don't have a lot of experience with when you find a good body worker in whatever field that's
sure,
actually good at what they do. You may have had 100 of those types of things before, whether it's a massage or chiropractic adjustment or whatever, whatever, whatever. But when you find
sure,
somebody who knows what they're doing, like Jen, like does incredible body work, like what she did down when I was down there, just like she knows how to get into that mode where she's in total harmony with what she's doing
yeah.
and tuned into you and your body and like um yeah, makes a big difference.
That's weird too, because that's like that kind of position, which is really where I think more like the master in a place resides. It's like
Mhm.
hard. It's kind of hard to explain what they do, because what they do
Right.
is like an on the fly kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
very subjective and unique to the scenario, and that's kind of like the beauty of it. But at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time, like a lot of times, especially from like a marketing standpoint, people want some kind of like desirable word on it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
They wanna,
Shiatsu
like
massage or some kind of
sure,
fancy
yeah,
Reiki adjustment massage or what a
but
tuning
it's
shit.
weird because like, if you use those, you end up, like you win some it's a win some, lose some situation,
Right.
and it's actually kinda like net zero. You don't actually really gain anything by that. So I'd really like, from a marketing perspective, the only reason I think a person should ever get very particular like that is if they're going to basically, like, raise their per unit price to accommodate for it. You shouldn't, like,
Huh.
do that to ever try and get more customers, but to get more out of your customer. You know
Yeah,
what
that
I
makes
mean?
sense. Because it's one thing you can't just throw around. I mean, you can, but like when people say Reiki, whatever, there's levels of training involved. When we say any kind of title, like there should be levels of training involved. Therefore, there should be more money paid. You should be better at what you're doing overall because you're
Sure.
incorporating different modalities you've been trained in.
Yeah. But
You're
then there's
taking the
also
time to.
becomes, like, this isolated expectation of what's supposed to happen in the session a
Oh
lot of the
yeah, that
time
too.
too, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So and that's kinda such as the nature of, like, identities. When you take on an identity in some way, shape, or form, get bounded by it, you know? But it's
I
like,
think
you can
so. Then I
sell
guess
stuff being very, very vague because people don't really, like, buy your product so much as they buy your result, you know?
right. Yeah,
Especially when
yeah.
it comes to, like, services. They don't really buy your service, they buy the result. Products sometimes operates like this, you know, like, people buy Bon-Ami because it gets the fucking job done. If Bon-Ami didn't get the job done, people wouldn't buy it. You know what I mean?
What's Bonami?
It's just like a kitchen cleaner. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
Yeah, you just like sprinkle some on there, rub it with a moist rag, and
Oh,
it's
like
good at cleaning
Ajax.
things. Yeah, a lot like Ajax. I believe
Okay, yeah.
Ajax would probably be a direct competitor with them. So like
Right.
same thing. Like people
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
Ajax because Ajax gets the job done, not because like, ooh, it's so like
That powder's so much
fashionable
better than
to
the other
have my
powder.
kitchen counter cleaner. You know what I mean? Like that's not
I
the
gotcha.
thing. They they
Yeah.
they buy it because it gets the job done. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And that's like, so they're kind of like approaching that product like a service, because when it comes to services, they're almost always more worried about the result than what like specifically the service is. You know what I mean?
Mm.
They people buy what the service will get done for them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you order a fucking internet connection, you don't need to understand their exact network topography. You need to know like, what kind of speeds am I gonna get and how much is it gonna
Yeah.
cost me? Okie doke, I'll sign up, right? Like you don't really care about their
Yeah. Simplify it
topographies
down.
very much, because it's like it's only really about like what result you're gonna get. It's not really about the product they're selling you, right?
When
Like
I
the service it
imagine
delivers.
Yeah, and so like even in that dynamic, so selling it more in the dynamic of intuitive massage, like people, it's like, oh, intuitive, that's not like, but if you get the results, like who cares? That's all that needs to be marketed. To intuitive massage, great. And I go to you, it's the best massage I ever had. I don't care what your credentials are. Yeah, intuitive massage thing you do, I'll pay you for it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, what do you cost? I want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's all like that. That's like the results thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But
That's what I mean.
in most cases with business, like a lot of people inside of business, their biggest struggle is like getting new clientele. So what they functionally have is like a lack of leads, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of times the reasons why they have a lack of leads is because they kind of like cater to something very specific. And like
Mm,
there's usually a way that you can just like kind of do that vaguer and get people kind of like in the door and then open their eyes to other things, right? Like if you
yeah.
want to get more specific with it, this is the whole concept of like market funnels. You know, a funnel's not supposed to be very tight at the top. It's supposed to be very loose at the top, and then it progressively gets tighter. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And so with like market funneling, really in the best case, it's good to have like your shit like very vague in the front, but then progressively it gets more and more specific. You know what I mean?
mm,
So like what might start out as like a course on business efficiency, then like moves forward into something that is like specifically about efficiently deploying your business on social media. And then it's like a little farther would be specifically deploying your business on LinkedIn, and a little bit farther would be like specifically deploying a like a monthly contract style gym on LinkedIn, which is specifically what that person does. You know what I mean?
mm.
So you have
Okay.
like many different layers to a funnel before you get the thing that you actually specialize in, because there's
Mm,
a wider generalization of things that functionally you specialize in as well. You know, you're just
yeah.
like, no one really specializes in something that general, anyways. How could someone say that, like, well, we already said something about how could someone massage, like, how could someone say that they're like an expert masseuse? There's like 90 million different ways to do body work. There's so
Right.
many. It's
Well, and
crazy.
like expert is just you're an expert doing massage the way you do massage. So it's like an always
Sure.
true statement too, without credentials. But again, if you're
Sure.
getting the results, doesn't matter what you say, the
Exactly.
results will speak for themselves.
Yeah. And even if the person did have like a million certificates and shit, like if you still don't get the result, like, do you want it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Like
the
you go and you see all
certificates just
these
make
like
them more expensive for you to not get a result. Like, what's the
I
point?
mean, even in like it's really common in allopathic dynamics, especially with the information that's available for people to find now on their own resources and things online or other whatever, that you go to a doctor, even if they graduate from Harvard Medical and all this, but they still may not know the answers you're looking for because they're a GP and they're a general practitioner and the things you're looking for are specific. So they've got all these things, but they may not have modern or updated knowledge just because they have
Yeah.
a past credential. Doesn't mean they've kept up to date with research or they actually apply it in a way that's effective.
Yeah.
Every doctor that graduates, I'm sure, isn't a great doctor. They just
Just because
pass
you
the
know
tests and
something
did
about
whatever.
something doesn't mean you know everything about everything, you know?
Right.
And like, I don't know. Shit, if you really want to talk about like specialists, to be like, to really consider yourself a specialist in something, in my opinion, it has to be pretty like succinct what it is that you're a specialist in. Because the other things are kind of like a general practitioner is like a jack of all trades, it's a master of none, right? So like it
Yeah.
knows a little bit about everything, but to really be a specialist, you got to know like everything about one thing. And to really know like everything about one thing in a certain way, your perception kind of has to be completely like, that's what I fucking think about.
Right.
I'm not generalized. I'm specialized.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And it really is
And
like
then
two different kinds of ways of focusing. Like I suck
and
at specializing personally.
do you feel like you so do because I feel like I was gonna say the same thing too.
I'm
There's too
really
many
good at
things.
generalizing to the point where an onlooker might think I'm specialized in many things, but I'm actually not. Like I'm at like the
Yeah,
90% mark in a bunch of different things because I'm really good at generalizing, but like the
right. There you
90%
go.
mark takes like a week to acquire, and then the other 10% takes like the next like 90,000 hours. So
Right,
like
right.
in a certain way, like I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm not really like a specialist at anything, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that I'm better at than other shit just because it's been around longer. whatever it was. You know, like I've had fucking computers in my life forever. You know, like I had computers in my house when I was a tiny little baby. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
computers have always been pertinent to my world. So I know a lot about computers or anything that has to do with a computer, basically.
yeah.
But just because it's been
Well,
around a lot, you know.
diversely, you've diversified your expertise in a sense, or your 90% saturation in a lot of realms within the computer dynamic that maybe other people didn't because of the ways you've been engaged with them
Yeah, and in
throughout
certain
your
ways, it's
life.
just because there's been more time that went by, you
Right.
know, with like their same amount of focus that a lot of other people put into like learning about using a computer. If they had the same amount of time put into that as me, I think they would probably know just as much as me. I mean, realize like my whole life. So I've had computers around, like functionally realize like my first job was when I was 3 years old. I got given 10 cents. My mom used to love verifying this because she thought it meant that I was like smart or a whiz kid or something. But I
Uh,
got paid 10 cents per disc to on a fucking like an old compact travel computer before they ever called them a laptop. They're the size of a fucking like a suitcase, and they had like a green and black screen,
yeah,
386,
yeah,
ran DOS like garbage,
yeah,
right? I was
yeah, yeah,
formatting floppy disks, the big ones, the 5 1/4s, and then at one
yeah,
point in time we did switch over to the 3 1/2s, and like it was a whole new world in certain ways. But like
yeah.
nevertheless, like my first job was like formatting 5 1/4 discs through a DOS prompt for 10 cents a disc when I was 3 years old. So I've been using like computers with like at least enough cognizance that I was actually, some people would find it hard to format a disk from a DOS prompt today with however old they are. You would ask them like, okay, format this disk from a DOS prompt. And they'd be like, I don't know how to do that. It's very simple, but they don't know how to do it. So you
Yeah.
could say that it's some level of like cognizance with it. That was when I was 3. So like I've like legit been using computers for 34 fucking years. Like that's a really long time, you
Which
know?
makes sense with your mindset on life and things to see them through the computer framework. I mean, that just imprinting on your neurology that early on. So that gives you a frame,
Yeah.
which works for the conscious mind, subconscious mind, subroutines, programming,
It's like
delete, rewriting
inevitable that I would
programs.
overlay that mechanic to the way my life worked. And I have very much so. I mean, like a
And
lot of the
so,
way that I
okay,
talk is sculpted by it.
can you even conceive of yourself growing up in a different environment?
I
It's
can
not around his
imagine it.
computers.
Yeah, but like
What do you feel like you look like, or what frameworks would you have used? Do you feel like, or what would you be pursuing, or how was your life? Where would you have ended up differently? Like your nuanced like interests and things you were learning.
you could argue that a certain facet of me actually has a completely different life because like after my mom died, I fucking pieced out and went and lived in my car like a fucking gypsy for like many years straight. And
Hmm.
then after that, like I lived in a house that I was renting that was like out in the forest in Leavenworth. So it wasn't exactly like I had like a lot of people around and I wasn't really
Yeah.
like going anywhere. And so like there was a lot of disconnection from like technology, society, caring about that shit. Like honestly, like climbing made me not give a flying fuck what was happening in the world, dude. Like I didn't think about it at all for like a couple years. I didn't have a
Awesome.
glimmer of a concept of a conspiracy theory in my mind. All I thought about was climbing fucking rocks and how I was gonna get that done. And I didn't give a
Uh,
fuck what was happening outside of that little bubble. And I just never thought about it. And there's a lot of integration with like plant, animal, environment, rock, huge one with rock. Like I firmly believe that rocks have taught me more about myself than anything probably ever will, but certainly more than anything else ever has. Because
mm,
like, well, everything else kind of like bent eventually in front of me, but rocks are like completely unforgiving and they don't like adjust how they are to you at all. So they point out your shortcomings, and until you overcome your shortcomings, they continue to point out your shortcomings and they don't come off of it at all. And that was very, very beneficial for my
no
life
doubt.
because there are many, many ways through climbing where I was in situations where I was required to engage myself if I wanted to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And it was very apparent to me that the only possible dynamic that could adjust itself in this situation was how well I operated. That was the only thing. So it was either I was like too weak or too stupid or too like lacking in malleability or whatever that was the reason that I couldn't do it. It wasn't the rock's fault. It wasn't really the environment's fault. It wasn't that I didn't have the time or anything like that. It was just always completely just me and my shortcomings. of
Yeah.
like there's not a single. Well, I always bouldered, so I didn't climb like big routes very much. Like I've free soloed as much tall shit as I've climbed on a rope, and just do it at really like low grades. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because like
Mm-hmm.
bouldering's like hard moves, short routes, and at a certain level of doing that, well, like easy moves like 5-3 or something like that, like it literally feels like an inclined ladder. Like you couldn't imagine possibly falling off of it. Like that would never happen. You know what
Yeah,
I
that
mean?
makes
So
sense.
it becomes
Sure.
like very like safe to like climb
Yeah,
tall shit
comfortable.
like that.
Yeah,
And it should, and for right
familiar.
reason too. Like you're legit, you're not gonna
Yeah.
fuck fall off that shit. It's never gonna happen. You know, it's never gonna
Yeah,
happen. If all of
you're
your other
familiar.
points cut away but one hand, you could hang on easily. You know, it's like no problem. You know what I mean? Like no matter how much went wrong, it would still be fine. So it's like
Yeah, it's
it's
become
not really
familiar
actually
terrain.
scary to you. But there's not a single boulder that I actually put a lot of time into that didn't require me to psychologically overcome myself in some way in order to be able to accomplish it. So, and not just
Do you
in
think
like the
it's
direct dynamics of, oh my God, I'm scared and I need to push past that fear, but in much more
yeah,
specific
yeah.
dynamics in a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
cases, in the sense that through other symbol sets, like a lot of stuff to do with animals and a lot of stuff to do with dreams, conversations I would have with other people. There were symbol sets that were being presented that pointed towards something deeper inside of my unconscious that was something you could perhaps see the influence of, but could not see for itself. But through those symbols and having an awful lot of time sitting in the fucking desert staring at a rock, doing nothing else but being inside of your own head, I like functionally solved a lot of these riddles and at the same time like had some boulder problem that got solved along with them. So it wasn't
Yeah.
really like I like went out climbing for a while. I kind of like went out and like completely meditated on rocks and like
Mm.
engaging with rocks and like being a rock. I used to sit around in the desert like a lot, just sitting there, no noise, not moving, just like pretending I was a rock too and seeing what it felt like. Like I have so much respect for rocks. It's actually ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
It's actually ridiculous. I like rocks like way more than people. Like 10 times logarithmic order more than I like people. I like rocks.
Mm.
They're amazing, dude. They are amazing
Well,
on
just even
every
as you lay
level.
that out, like I just really viscerally envision, like imagine that engagement just night after night for long periods of time. I mean, just you're out there and something that's every single night, some ritualistically, or maybe sometimes, but whatever. The point is, you're out there for a long period of time. How your neurology changes, your mindset changes about life, or things
You
yourself, or
get
what you're
addicted
thinking
to
about all
them
the time.
too. Like you get attached. You won't stop thinking about them. I've been caught miming boulder problems in my sleep because I was like legitimately dreaming about them. I would go
Yeah.
to sleep practicing the moves. I would think about the moves all day. I would try the moves for hours, like what I ate, when I ate it, and when I was gonna wake up and when I was gonna go to sleep was all oriented around it. So it's like it's interesting practice to allow something to like consume you so much, you know?
Yeah.
And but like that's exactly what I wanted. Make no doubt about it. This was in many ways an evasive mechanism that was like, well, like my mom was like my best friend and like my only bailout in life.
Mm.
And so like obviously like her dying at like 57 years old, I wasn't really so great with that. And I wasn't so great with the world either. So in certain ways,
Yeah.
like I literally like I kind of had a breaking point. Like so like I don't know. I just had one night where I just kind of like lost my shit in the middle of the night. And I just like decided that I like, okay, if I stay doing the same thing that I'm doing right now, like if I continue the vector that I have currently taken out of my mom's death, which this was only like a month or something like that, like
Mm.
I'm gonna do the same fucking life that my mom did. And I'm gonna like sit around in my house like scared to ever go do anything. And I'm just never gonna live my life. And I'm gonna have like everything I want right here. I got my gigantic bag of good weed. I can play video games. I got full run of the household now and money to take care of everything. And we're all good. And I can launch from
Mm.
here. But I do not want this direction at all. And so I just
Mm.
like kind of made a knee-jerk decision that I was fucking bailing on all of that shit. Started selling my shit as quickly as I possibly could. What I couldn't sell in like 3 weeks, I either put into storage or put into my car or left sitting in the middle of the house. and just fucking left and just never thought about it again. Fucking.
Hmm.
But I was running
Yeah.
away in a lot of ways. Like, I did not want to be that thing. I didn't know where I was going. You know, in Inception, where they have like these words where they say to each other, the man and the female lead, that they say, you know, like that we're like boarding a train and we're going somewhere, but we don't know where we're going. But like,
Mm-hmm.
at least we like know we're going there together. It was like that, only in a certain way. Like, I very much so knew I was going there by myself, despite the fact that I had a very wonderful woman in my life at that point in time that had just like helped me through my mom's cancer and helped my mom in a bunch of ways that like my mom didn't feel comfortable with me helping her. So it was like really helpful to have this girl around. She did it completely selflessly. I eternal respect for this person, even though like we don't talk anymore, but like she's fantastic individual because she did all that like for my mom. And then like I straight up told her, I was like, dude, to be quite honest, like I'm losing my shit and I'm fucking like gonna run away from life, and I'm just gonna like, I don't know what else I'm gonna do with my life, but I know right now I'm like really having a good time sitting here watching climbing videos, and I want to go do that. And so I'm gonna go do that. And just gonna commit to that and see what happens. You know what I mean? And after like 3.5 years of that, and which in a certain way is kind of also the same time where my money dwindled down. I had like
That's what I was gonna say. How did you
stuff figured
sustain
out in a
yourself
certain
during
way.
that 3.5 years?
I already had a bunch of money.
Okay,
So
so you're
I over that like 3.5 years, I lived off of like $35,000 or something like that for the whole of those 3.5 years, like
wow.
paying for myself and the girl that was with me, my 2 dogs, storage sheds, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I think I fucking sold some weed or something along the way, probably here and there. There is, you know, towards the whatever. I had money is really the
Yeah.
answer. So
Enough to sustain your lifestyle in a way for like 3.5 years. You could do that until you
which
were
let's
done with it.
realize it was a very low footprint lifestyle. I was sleeping in a
Yeah.
fucking tent in the desert. People like mistakenly considered me as homeless. So like, you know, it wasn't exactly like a glamorous lifestyle or anything, but I wasn't looking for a
Yeah.
glamorous lifestyle. I was looking to
Yeah.
like totally
It doesn't
be a
matter. Yeah.
different fucking life, dude.
Right.
And quite honestly, like I'm at another point right now where in many ways I'm totally looking for a different fucking life. Like the thing that I was just doing a little while ago, like, dude, I crushed it. I fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, dude. 100 times farther than I ever thought I would get, and I just do not care to see any farther on it. And like, so I just got to go do something else, because if I don't go do something else, there's fucking no reason to be doing anything at all. So I'm like, and it's weird how this shit always comes forward too. Like I have a client that likes to reverse client me a lot of the time, and she's very
Okay.
intelligent, so she's very capable as well. I, in many ways, I'm not really sure why she ever pays me, because she's very smart. But nevertheless, I provide something that she likes. I don't know what it is. She pretty much takes the whole lead, which is an interesting thing about our engagement, because it's about the only place in my life where someone else takes the lead. And it's interesting, but it's just the way that she operates. But she was like asking me about a lot of stuff that like goes down this same line. Like she was asking me about like what I fear, and getting me to like question like what is the concept of loss? Have I ever lost anything? All these different things. And well, to be quite honest, she never like pops up into my life unless shit's about to get crazy. And so shit has gotten a bit crazy. I gotta say, thank you very much for providing a space where I don't know why this is better than other things I was doing, but I feel a lot better right now. Like it like makes me kind of emotional, because like I felt like shit. And a lot of it's because of her fucking questions, quite honestly. Because
Cool.
like, well, there are a couple things I don't want to happen. I wouldn't say I'm scared of them, but they are not optimal outcomes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
It very
I
much do.
think I think unconsciously maybe they get more attention than I would like to give credit for. And I think what the solution is for me to like purposely focus more of my energy. I think in certain ways I'm still running away, and I have to stop running away. I have to actually like want to be here and want to do this, and want to like see something get created. And a really like big struggle in my life right now is that in certain ways I just kind of don't fucking care, man. I don't care. Like
Uh-huh.
honestly, I've seen 10 people's lifetimes. If motherfuckers knew everything that I had seen, they would be exactly like me. They would be like, shit, we good. We could see another one, but also we could just not. It's not a big deal. I've
Right.
been successful beyond how far I thought I could be successful, like over 10 times. I've learned
Yeah.
more than I thought there was to learn about something like 100 times.
Yep.
I've like, and there's still so much to learn. I'm not saying I've been successful at everything. I haven't. I'm not saying I
Right.
know everything. I certainly fucking don't. But also at the same time, like I'm content with my knowledge and my experience base also.
Yep.
But that has like some implications with it. And I think I need to be less content with my knowledge and my experience base. Just not because I need to, because I want to.
Yeah.
I always needed to before. I needed to
Do you
do
feel
more,
like
succeed more, achieve more, learn more. I needed to do everything more because it wasn't good enough. No, I don't
how
give a
would
fuck what
you
any of you think. Not none of y'all or my mom. That's none of that. None of them. I don't care what anybody thinks about what I accomplished with my life. Like I die successful, 100 fucking percent,
Yeah.
100%. It's already it's done and dusted, nothing left to prove. So I don't like. I just don't care what anybody else thinks, and I just don't really fully know how to operate like this yet.
Okay, look, can I wait and at least join in now that we've articulated this out pretty thoroughly and I'm pretty sure we're in similar
Yeah,
spots?
sure. I'm sorry, I'm a talker, dude.
No, it's okay. I'm just like the more you talk, I'm like, yep, yep, and then the more you elaborate, I'm like, yep, like really. I mean, there's just little nuances maybe different, but it's like core thing. I mean, that's where and so okay, there's just a lot of things that I'm thinking now based on what you're saying that, but like
One at a time. Yeah,
yeah.
plenty of time. One at a time.
So learning things like 100 times and learning enough things like I've been rehashing, so I've been thinking in the framework of, I think this all tie back to just creating some framework of expression here. Jordan Peterson, when he does his life, the life review thing or whatnot, whatever his thing is, framework for that, and the psychology
Life
breakdown B,
authoring, I think is what
yeah,
it is.
life authoring, yeah, yeah. One of the things is to write out your life in split your life up into 7 epochs. So like put a time frame on that, whatever that means for you. Just kind of look at your life and click, and then title those epochs of your life. Like what were those things that you embody, learn, went through, whatever. Um, and so as life goes on, like those have to get reframeworked. I did that 4 years ago, and I saw these epochs, right? Totally satiated. Like saw where my life was going, even kind of into this next phase, this whole thing. Like, but everything that I'd done and like that, all that soul, like I was super satiated with everything I'd learned. Who cares if the world ever knows? I don't fucking care. Doesn't matter. I know the things I've accomplished internally in my life and then my surroundings, my immediate surroundings, like what mattered to me. Super satiated multiple times over. Feeling very fortunate with the relationships I'd had in my life and the families I've been a part of and just things in life that were way more beautiful and healing and amazing. All that was great. And seeing what's happening in my perceptions of the world and the realities around us, physically, metaphysically, all those things are really exciting, really satiating, and so many different things. And then, like I said, I think on the 100th episode thing, like this big vacuum of like what? Like I'm really satisfied with everything I've encountered in this life and whatever. I'm cool. I'm cool. I don't have now that everything's open. There's no some program I'm following or I'm not part of any agenda or religion or light team or like
Yeah.
whatever. It's just whatever we want to do. And it's like, but I don't know. There's nothing, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen in certain ways that like I mean I was kind of like shooting for that freedom the whole time, but like upon obtaining it, it's a little scary in ways
Exactly.
too, and you kind of
Yeah.
also, for me at least, don't know how to do it. And the
I don't.
concept of like being in a place where like you need to do something and you don't know how to do it, that's scary. Like that took all the identities off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like anytime that's happening though, you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. You got to walk across
Yep.
a balance beam right now, but you don't know how to balance. Sound good? No, it
Yeah.
fucking sounds
That's a good
terrible.
one.
And like
Yep.
you got to ride a bike down this hill right now, but you don't know how to ride a bike. Ready to go? Not sounding
Yeah.
good. You know what I mean? Got to drive a car through rush hour traffic to get your wife to the hospital, but you don't know how to drive a car. Sound good? Like anytime you get into a situation like
Yeah.
that, that dynamic sucks. It doesn't
And
matter
it's
where it is.
when it feels like this is a much bigger framework than just a thing in life. No, this is all of life. This is all of
Yeah.
it. All of
Yeah.
it. So it doesn't get much, like there's nothing, it's not like refocus on this. Like, no, it's the whole frameworks. How do you move past that nihilism aspect, but also I guess acknowledging the fear? Because we were saying too, like actually being scared, feeling scared, like, holy shit, I do not know how to do this. And I don't like, where's my incentive to want to do this?
Yeah.
I've been satisfied with life. Why do I need to go through some more shit and like figure that whole struggle again of like rebirthing into a whole new knowledge of something else or a whole new framework of like an ego, if you will?
Yeah.
Why build up another one? I've already done all that.
Yeah. For anybody, like, I just want to put this caveat in there for anybody out there watching, like, it's not that like there's permanently problems inside of things. The position that like both myself and it seems like Aaron are residing at, it is a very much so a better position. And it's not that we're like belly aching about our position. In many ways, we're like very, very happy with ourselves. But understand that like this is also why there's no reason to like judge people regardless of their position on the journey. Because like 20 years into some position or 20 seconds into some position, functionally, like you're having the same fucking problems that other people are having. You just have to like abstract the same shit over to somewhere else. And this is why you're able to have like compassion and empathy, and in a certain way, like psychologically and emotionally, travel between those dimensions to like truly have compassion for someone that's in a completely different situation. Like a mother that is struggling to feed her child because she like lives in the ghetto and has come up, and it's like that kind of storyline, and a mother that's struggling to feed her child because of any other reason are functionally experiencing the same thing. And there's like, I'm not a big fan of like this compartmentalized judgment and shit like that. I think everybody's having a unique experience and they're all like very valuable and they're all at their own place along the thing. And like it's really more important of like how positive can you make it right now. But one of the ways to make it positive is to like get together with like-minded people, be it through watching a podcast or talking to someone that you know. In my case,
Yeah.
talking to someone I know with Aaron, and we have similar situations and we can see that we like resonate in the same place, and we can see the togetherness between those things. And with that togetherness, you maybe gain some kind of momentum that you didn't have otherwise to really like do better in the moment. So like, yeah, I don't want people to think that I'm like sitting here like sad about my situation at all. Like
Uh,
I'm very happy about like what has happened in
yeah, and
my
that's the
life and
weird
where I
spot.
sit
That's
right now.
and that's the weird spot about it, right? I mean, I get it because that's where we're both trying to analyze this for ourselves. Have been probably, it sounds like, for some time. The way
Yeah.
you laid that out, obviously, it's a your culminating thoughts, or it's the distilled thoughts of culminating processes that have been ongoing.
Yeah.
That you haven't had the words or the framework to put there. I haven't either, and I've just been trying. There's some things like this in the last, was it yesterday, maybe?
I kind
There's
of feel
something I
stupid even talking about it. That's why I put that disclaimer on there, because I feel like I'm like complaining about some suffering from success shit when I listen to myself
oh
talk.
no,
And that's
let
kind of
me
the reasoning for the disclaimer, you know? Like
yeah, fair enough if you feel that
I
way. Yeah.
I can resonate with other people's problems because I still have problems too, is kind of like what I'm trying to say with that, you know, regardless of like what
Mm,
position I'm at, whether I'm successful or not. Like I think
yeah.
success is a dumb concept at this
Yeah,
point in
well,
time. So
yeah, like we've established, so it's you're being successful yourself, and I think the places that, I mean, so yeah, I've thought about that too, because I could see, like, from the framework of like a friend of mine, just us having conversations, and she was mentioning in some level, she envies the place where I'm at in life, that didn't that I don't have kids, that I'm not in a relationship right now, I'm not, all the things that I've
yeah,
done up
a
to
lot
this
of
point, I'm
positives going
satisfied
for
with.
you.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and she's, she has kids and so loves her kids, doesn't regret that, but also sees the value in that freedom. And I get that from other people's perspectives. I get that from my own perspective. I
Sure.
do. I value that. I see that as,
That's why you
knowing
don't
in,
have kids.
well, knowing all that's where this has come to at this point. For all the reasons, there's a lot of different dynamics in there. There was a window when that could have happened, and the relationship dynamic goes in. It didn't work that direction, and so it is where it is, where I'm at now. So if I end up, what matters is now. So I can think about possible future timelines that I would like get into a groove of life,
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of existential internal gray area wouldn't be, or like motionless area. It's like it's motionless is part of the problem. It's like what to do now, as opposed to like if you have kids or something, that's a daily interaction. Well, at least you're doing this. Whatever else you're going to be doing, you are doing this now.
Yeah.
So that's there.
That's
I
a
don't
blessing and
have
a
that.
curse though, in a lot of
Very
ways.
totally. absolutely, but both ways. So I can see in the future, would I take on a responsibility like that? Thought about getting a dog, and sometime maybe early next year, and like different things that has its own responsibilities on a lesser level, but still. But I don't have any of that stuff right now, so I can see positive things how they might go out,
Yeah.
down the road. But the point is, I'm not there now. I don't see myself being in certain places anytime soon. And it's just like how to get the motivation to get passionate about life again or something. I don't know how else to frame it. That's kind of the goal. Yeah, I guess that's the goal. I feel like like if there's a
What would you
consistent
do
goal
if
to
you
have
had
all
like
through life,
infinite money and nothing to do? Like, what would you
a
do?
lot, man.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, okay, it
I don't
breaks
know
down
why
in
for
like
me, I think
millions
of a
of
boat
steps.
right away, dude. I don't even
Yeah.
like boats, but for some reason that comes to mind.
Okay, hold on. You got a check in the mail. You got $1 million. Immediately, you're going to do this thing right now.
Yeah, see,
You
I
go get
guess
a
the
boat
the
ride.
boat dream was maybe a little bigger than that. It was
Keep going.
definitely
Like
in like
taking a
some
boat and
it
you're
was
gone.
definitely in like some kind of like tropical water, and it was a fucking pretty nice boat.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can charter boats, man. Stuff like that. Like you go visit a
Yeah, that'd
place
probably
and
be
just
the way
charter
to
a boat
go.
for a day.
'Cause let's
Yeah.
face it, like, I'm not much of a boat guy.
Yeah. You
That's
just you
maybe
enjoy it
that's
and
why it comes to mind, you know what I mean? Because I like immediately my mind's tuned towards like, you gotta do something different than the shit that you've done before. And that's part of my
yeah.
fucking problem, dude, is like I've done a lot of shit, dude.
Right.
Like a lot of
You have done a
shit.
lot of shit.
And so
Yeah.
like I'm like, man, I need to do something I haven't done before. I'm like, fuck,
I know
like, is
it.
there anything left on the fucking list? You know,
I
and
know.
there is some stuff, and some of it's just like pet a tiger.
Yeah,
Christina Marie
nice.
says, like, that would be pretty sick. But you know, yeah, I'm totally down too, because like even if worst case scenario, a tiger bites your arm off, and that's a pretty cool story too.
Yeah.
You know what I
You
mean?
know,
So
and
not a big because
when
no
something
way a
like,
tiger would. Dude, I watched there's a video that you should watch. It's
all
called
right,
like Our Planet. It's on Netflix, but it's like a
cool.
bunch of this like nighttime footage is what their
Ooh,
first season is,
cool.
with all
All
these
right,
like new cameras that are fucking, just super hyphy, dude. Like they're so good, and like just
cool.
great footage from the middle of the fucking night. I don't know, dude. Like my heart fucking like resonated with that. Half of me right
Cool.
now is like a beast on the savannah, just murdering gazelle or something. I don't know what it is, dude. Just like
The
watching it,
night,
I was like just enthralled, man. Like, God,
that's
how
a
great
nighttime
would it
thing?
be if I could just be doing that? A 90% of lions' kills are done at nighttime. Did you know that?
No shit. I did not
90%.
know
That's
that.
crazy, right? Like
You know
every
what's
video you've
interesting?
ever seen was a daytime video
Yeah,
of
no
lions
doubt.
killing
Yeah.
shit. That's 10% of their kills. So that's crazy. But
It's funny in the
they
last like
also
I did,
they showed like this lioness in there that like pretty clever cat here, but also
yeah.
very strong. Like I don't know, dude, like a wildebeest or whatever, water buffalo that had to have been
Uh,
like, I mean, minimum 500 pounds. I don't know how much these things weigh, but minimum 500 pounds, way more than you could like pull down to the ground if it was like
yeah.
trying to run away from you. Literally just
Yeah.
like sprung up, grabbed this thing, ripped it down to the fucking ground, just threw it down, bit it around the neck. Like it was over with, like just overpowered it down to the ground. And it was just crazy because like I had to like pause it, and I was like saying to Jenna, I was like, do you like realize how much stronger than how strong you are you would need to be in order to do that? Like this is
Yeah.
a fucking several 100-pound wildebeest. It's like, fuck this, I'm out of here at full speed, and if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna die. It's running for its life. And this
Yeah.
lion is just literally just like pops up and rips it to the ground. Like they don't go but 3 feet. Like it
Yeah.
went nowhere. It was like this thing hit a fucking brick wall. It was just crazy because like I don't know,
Wow.
man. Like God, you're like
Yeah.
so strong. It's crazy.
Well, in the nighttime too,
Insane.
nocturnal, internal, intuition. Like it's
Lions
the
actually see really
nighttime.
good at night, better than we do at
Yeah,
night.
that makes sense.
And they like a lot of this was about like talking about how animals operate during like the full moon. And they definitely were like showing like cheetahs and wild dogs. There's actually several of them where they show a lot of different environments. The first one is like about these like kind of desert environments for most of it, because it also had like the Sonoran Desert, and that hit me in the feels too, because I was raised up until I was 8 in Tucson, Arizona, which is adjacent to the Sonoran Desert. I spent a
Okay.
lot of time walking around in that motherfucker out in the middle of the night, either on new moons or full moons, because, well, for all intents and purposes, my mom was basically some kind of weird shamanic witch. So like we always ended up out in the full moon, or anytime there was any
Cool.
type of star thing happening. We were out in the middle of the fucking desert, God knows where, like either laying in the back of her truck or walking around by full moonlight.
Cool,
And like
man.
it's just like, oh, it's so fucking cool.
Cool.
It's so
Yeah, no
cool, dude.
shit.
And like,
Send me a
nevertheless,
link to that episode. Send me a link to that episode. I'm out watching Nate and Jen's dog this weekend, so I'll be able to put it on the big screen. They got a nice big screen there instead of my phone.
it's a good combo right there. And watch it in the dark too.
Cool. Awesome. Yay. Yeah,
That
that
would
sounds
be the
great,
way to
man.
go. See, dude, because like, okay, so color gets drowned out because of direct light. And so in the case with one second, I'm like bringing this thing up and it's making a fucking bunch of noise. Nighttime photography actually has way better color saturation, and the colors are like way more true to life. And just honestly, like, color looks better in low light photography. Like, if you are capable of
Cool.
capturing enough light that it does get the color looks a lot better. They were definitely
Interesting. Yeah.
capable of capturing enough light for that. And
Yeah, that plus
yeah,
having a nice screen, high
they have
resolution,
one that's
and
also like frozen worlds,
frame rate.
jungles, coastal seas, from deserts to grasslands, the high seas, fresh waters, and forests, all
And so
in the
it's
first
like a planet
season.
Earth, but you said a lot of it takes place at night, or that one episode you're talking about specifically was night.
I think they're all at night, dude.
Fuck yeah, cool. That's a nice nuance because there's a lot of planet Earths, and
Where is this
they are
fucking?
cool, man. The way that
I'm confused.
amateur.
Maybe this is like a second one that I'll find it, dude.
Cool. Yeah,
I
please
don't
do.
know,
Yeah, 'cause it's perfect time to watch that this weekend.
but
Certain
it was
shows need a big screen.
such good cinematography, dude. Amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. The way that's gotten even amateur cinematography, but even you imagine the main networks too, and hopefully at this point have upgraded enough, and they have. I mean, yeah, the cinematography has gotten so much better. Man, it's really cool to be able to experience it that way.
Maybe it was called Night on Earth.
Here, you know what part of the problem is too?
Yeah,
It's not just
it was called Night on Earth. Our Planet was another show I saw at the same time when I selected to watch this instead, and I got them confused.
perfect. Good. I'm glad you're sending it to me. Thank you. Okay, so I was thinking about another dynamic or facet to the feeling of being too satiated, too comfortable with like what we've done in life or whatever at this point. They're trying to get self-generated into something new or whatever. That includes not just externally being satiated with what I've accomplished externally in my life, not just possessions or things, but whatever that means to you, interactions and decisions over time and accomplishments and whatever. That even couldn't be simply explained. The accomplishments you have made in yourself and whatever, but also internally, creatively, imaginatively, the things I know that in my own experiences have encountered and fixed in my own DNA, or just all those different dynamics of encountering myself, loving myself, healing myself, all those beautiful ways to connect with myself, all of that too, and psychedelics, all those things. I've had enough that I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm totally satiated with life. Like, I don't need to. There's lots of answer questions I still have, sure, but they're not like, I definitely need to know that before I die. No, I'm good. Really, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm very interested in
Good.
figuring out what it is that I actually want to do with life.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, it's a weird realization. It's been like a tough realization in a certain way for me. Just as like, I always thought I was doing what I wanted, but I totally see now how I was actually tricking myself. I was like, not doing that actually.
What were we doing? So
It's
I
kind
feel
of
like
funny.
I was doing what I wanted and I accomplished them. And I mean, I thought about that. Like, if let's
I
say,
was being controlled by like negative space, right? Like what you were supposed to do, I did not do that. And because of that, there was one way of operating. It was just like the non-way. You know what I mean? So everybody tells you to do this thing, and if they tell you to do that, not doing it. You know what I mean? It's like the anti-red button kind of thing, right? Like if they're telling me to do it, there's no fucking chance I'm gonna do it. But that means that it's premeditatable what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? And I was very much so like controlled by.
Yeah, still a conditioned response versus
so like
a
a lot of
choice.
people want to be normal. I did not want to fucking be normal. That was terrifying to me. The idea of being normal, ugh, yuck, no way. I want to be like standout all the time, star of the team, star of everything that I ever do. I want to be the best.
Is that a zodiac sign thing too? Is that
You
right
could
too?
attribute it to it.
What's your primary, your rising or your
Well,
sun
like
sign?
I have a double Gemini thing going on with a Leo rising though, and Leos always want to be out front like that, and Geminis have a tendency to like be very much so into like plotting on how to get something accomplished, and they oftentimes do it through some kind of like competitive metaphor, and so that oftentimes like I want to be the star, I want to be the front runner, I want to be the best, like a Gemini Leo chart. It's not surprising, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So, nevertheless, it's definitely a Zach thing to do, or it was for like a really long time. It's really weird, like engaging. This happens especially a lot through video games, because video games were a place where like a forum where this really transpired, where like I had to be the best I could be. Like it mattered to me for some reason, right? Well,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
engaging with video games now, and like I don't care about that. Like I just like fuck around, kind of just like to have fun, and like don't really care. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's really kind of like a whole different experience than the one I was having before. I feel like it's like the difference between like if you've
Do you
ever
feel like
done
you've
something as a
saturated that
hobby
experience?
and then you like get a job doing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it like loses
Yeah.
this pizzazz.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like that, but in reverse. It's like it was
Yeah.
always a job before, and now it's like just a
You can
hobby.
enjoy it, do it for
But
fun, or yeah, hobby.
yeah,
Less
it's kind
pressure.
of weird operating like that for me though. Like
Do you
I'm
feel like
not.
you've saturated that though? Like, because eventually you'll get used to that, you'll integrate that, and then that's kind of just you understand that how that works in with the rest of your framework. Do you feel like you've done that already, and you're bored with it, or it's still something you're still filling out, experiencing, and
I think competition in certain ways is one of the like last places where I still kind of get my kicks.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's fun to even be on like I was thinking. I mean, COVID shit, because definitely can't do anything now. But I've been the last few years. Me and my brother try to at least a couple times a year do or once a year or so do a basketball league, like a rec league.
Mm,
It's just something to even in that moment, that 1 hour, it's competition against the other team, the person in front of you,
yeah.
yourself, right? Improving skills. But I mean, man, it's something. I get it, man. I played a lot of extracurricular activities and sports and things too, growing up. But it's something it's camaraderie, teammates, you build friendships. There's jokes, there's things, But that all and then again, that all goes away. And then are you happy being alone? All that shit. But they're all that's already there.
Yeah.
And then
I've had like so many of them like come and go that I'm like I'm pretty good both ways. I've had enough time in both forums that like I'm pretty good both ways when they're not there and when they are there. But really like the not there, because I feel like I'm more effective and more engaged with my life when they are there. And so in a
yeah,
certain way when they're not there, I'm kind of like functionally just like seeking them out. Like what's the next one? You know?
right.
But this is why I have trouble recently, is because like the reasoning behind the what was the next one used to
Mm,
be like very cut and dry for me, because there was like something that seemed like the next thing I was functionally supposed to do, right? And now
mm,
like I more so just feel like I just do like whatever the fuck I want to do, and like I said, I don't really know how to do that very well. I
yeah.
don't really know what I want to do. You know,
Right.
I think of a boat and like tropical water. What does that mean? I don't know. Like, what would I even do on that? And then on top of that, I've been on a boat in tropical water that was not a whole lot different than this one. Like I was
Yeah.
out deep sea fishing and shit, but like if I was the age I am now, like that would be a kind of different experience, maybe. What
Yeah.
experience am I really looking even to have on that boat, if that's even a real thing? It's just a thing
Well,
that
that
popped
would
into
be
my
more of the
head.
dynamic. That would probably be the better question too. Like, what if you're tuning into that potential future reality or subconscious imagery that came up? Like, what part of you wants to experience what being on that boat? Because I know being on a boat for me, like it's just different. If I just allow my nervous system to tune into my environment, it's different, man. Being on the water, the compression waves, negative ions, you can tell all that shit too. But I mean, there's probably a million things you could measure and we know about, and there's probably a million things we just don't know how to measure or whatever. But
Yeah.
there's some kind of dynamic of just being in that environment, especially over time. Different places you come into, the towns, the energy in the different towns are always a little different. You don't even have
It'd
to
be weird to
engage
be
with
like a
it, just
boat
the awareness
gypsy.
of it.
Where you
Yeah,
basically
man.
just like lived on a boat and kind of like cruised around to wherever the weather was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Any more up? Yeah, no doubt, man.
I think you
It's
end up just in
interesting.
the Caribbean and you stay there all the time pretty much. But,
You become one of those. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's again, it's like lifestyle. So part of it too. Okay, so part of it I was thinking about the mistake. So if there's a higher version of myself that's aware of like my, let's say an avatar or a fractal, whatever, playing this game or he's invested, so he's seeing in a bigger picture outside time, if you will. But he can see the ways they're playing out. And I've made choices. So if I was looking at the framework of my life up to this point, even starting the podcast, doing all that stuff, all the stuff I learned going through Christianity, all that dynamic coming through it, the separation from there, even starting the podcast, the dynamics we talked about, and whatever. I really could have made that last like almost a decade. I really could, man. I could have made that a lifestyle that not about money. I'm talking about internally for me being excited about life.
Sure.
I could have made that last a decade.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I want to learn. I just wanted to figure it out. Like I knew I wanted to figure it out. And I felt like I was
I
going at
think
the
you could
pace
make
that
it a whole
seemed natural.
lifetime if you really wanted to.
Yeah, he could. I feel like because and even in that though, I remember when I was going through different things, when I started learning like aspects of Hebrew and Bible code set, and like really gone to different nuance, and to get it just open up this realm of understanding that I'm super stoked to dive into, and my own intuition or whatever. Just so, like I'd have to would gently encourage me to let that go. That I still need to learn these other things. It was more important to not learn that last 10% or learn some things you just. Even though I desperately wanted to, I keep finding these beautiful things and just put pins in them, and I'd have to keep moving on to other facets. So like
Yeah.
even with what I did learn, there was still so much more to learn that like would have exhilarated my soul. So I just like I look back now where I'm at now internally and then think, really, I just crammed that into that short of a time. Now I'm stuck where I'm at 34 and I'm already this place in life. Aren't you supposed to be here in like your 70s or 80s? Because I'm totally feel the same way. It's cool, man. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good. So, but I'm here and I'm living. I don't want to die. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to live in a way that's free from agendas or programs. And part of a lot of the agenda was figuring out who I am outside the construct, but integrating all that and like then sharing it and like, great, did all that. Now what?
Yeah. That kind of like a new hot take that's been forming in my mind that like if the way to do the thing is like a way that you had to learn from somebody else, it's like the wrong way. And like we shouldn't be as focused on learning as we should be as like focused on expressing who we are, because that's really like the only way to learn who you really
Yeah.
are. Like you can't possibly learn it from someone else, and you don't really need their methodologies. Just like start being who you are today and keep doing it every other day, and then you'll know all the time as much as you could know. I mean,
Well,
and
and like,
there's nothing to
and
learn.
so that's why I've encouraged a lot along the way, different people or different things. Like, and I still do for the people if they're ever thinking about it. I think this more and more humans are doing this. I've seen on YouTube. They're just themselves on YouTube. Their thoughts, the way they are, random times of the day, eating cereal. This is their thoughts, but they're just interesting people. They're just being themselves,
Mhm.
figuring out life. And like, I've learned a lot about myself, a lot about other people when they're just being that way. It's not some marketed thing. It's not they have their shit figured out. Now they're sharing things with you on their own line. They're just being a person and having thoughts
Yeah,
and opinions and things.
like
And there's not,
video blogs, basically.
yeah, you just find people that you resonate with. It's not about followers, it's not about whatever. You get out there and then they resonate with you, and then maybe that starts conversations, or I don't know. You know, see, and even creating a well, and also I was thinking about this earlier. I think you and I both don't care about legacy. You know, and I
Yeah,
think a lot of people do because I know I'd most likely at some point in my life. I mean, it's this window, this next like few year window that I'm trying to figure out, so I can get some groundwork and steps in motion. Because I could see, you know, 5, 7 years, 10 years out, maybe you know, have a relationship, kids. Great, I know how that'll work. I figured that part of life out, kind of, and just had to set it aside.
hmm,
So great, but in the meantime, figuring out what those steps are. Uh, I don't. When I have kids, there's always a legacy because you have a child, I guess, in your name. So there's a legacy and a dynamic you're teaching and ingraining in them. But I don't need that to fill my life. If I don't have that, great. If I don't have anything, well, we have, you know, stuff online, YouTube channel stuff. That's
yeah,
fine. But even if that was never there, being satisfied with it, the legacy just never mattered to me. Most stuff I did was in the privacy of my reality. Nobody would have ever known had I not done all this stuff. So
yeah. I think we have a very important child inside ourselves that could actually benefit from getting the whole of our attention. Like, I think obviously for the sake of the human race, it's a good idea for people to have kids. But I think also for the sake of the human race, it's actually a good idea for some people to not have kids and
100%,
completely focus on like basically raising their own version of themselves. You know what I mean? I think
100%.
it's
Yeah,
just as important, but
I'm
easier to
I'm
overlook.
totally.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, yes,
Yeah. Anyways, I think the synthesis of everything anyone could ever say is like really like we had to peel away a bunch of layers until we realize like just be yourself. It's fucking there feels like there's a lot of important questions to answer before that, and depending where you are, it's certain questions, you know what I mean? But they're just like at
yeah,
some point in the process of well, you're gonna have to just like sack up and be who you are. And in many ways, it's like kind of the hardest thing to do. You have
Well,
to
and
totally
also
like take
like it's hard
responsibility
if
for
you
what
don't
you're gonna
know
do.
who you are. That's fine too. Like egos change who you are. I mean, how do you want to even
Yeah, I
define that?
postulate you never do. You can only just
Yeah,
like be who you are in the
who
moment, and
you
then
are
you're like
now.
constantly learning who you are. But that
Yeah.
might like in the next moment, you might be a version of you that you're like, whoa, that can be me. That's crazy. Like that can happen if you're really like allowing yourself to be who you are. Huh?
And then finding ways to the ways that you find out about you that you like, find ways to ingrain that in and create habit patterns or viscerally engage that, or I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics we could ramble on, but what's up,
Yeah.
Joseph?
Oh, is Joe in here? Well, I
Said,
should I
what's
should
up,
go get my
fellas?
back worked on and stuff. I do feel a lot better right now.
All right, cool.
Stand by who you are until you're not. I like that. Because that's
Yeah,
really like what you that's so true, honestly. Like
yeah, like, yeah.
be who you are, but be completely okay with just being somebody else later. Because it
It's
doesn't
okay to
matter.
change your paradigms, your belief systems, your thoughts about life, about yourself based on new information.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And then just integrating that, not have to change everything, but like, you take information in with a grain of salt, but just keep taking it. I think just awareness, man. If people just increase their awareness, there's plenty of information around them in their everyday lives that they could take in a whole new way. It's just increasing awareness, but I don't know, awareness gets boring too. Everything's good until it's not. Jesus. We love you guys. We're on the journey of life together. We'll be back tomorrow night after Frank Castle
And
does his fearless thing at 6. Is
in
Jen on
line.
Saturdays now? She's Friday still.
She did it Sunday last time. Sunday's like gonna be her day off now, so it'll probably be Sunday. To be honest, so she probably does her show. Yeah.
Okay, instead of Friday or Saturday?
Yeah. So,
Coolsies.
anyways, I'll leave you with a, wonderful advice from the great bard Terence McKenna that we should all remember always.
Take it easy, dude, but take it.
But take it.
That's the thing right there, man. Chill. Make sure you're actually engaging yourself, but don't make it so serious that you shut yourself down with some kind of crazy paralysis because it's so fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good look. Moderation in all things, Aristotle says. Maybe someday other people will actually figure out what he fully meant. Maybe
Yeah.
he didn't even know. I don't know. Tough to say. Don't leave you now. I was only going to be here for like 30 minutes. Somehow I stayed here for an hour and 10 minutes. I can't believe it.
Actually, we said that was an hour and 8, which is 9. So transmutation, man. Back pain and good conversation, bro.
Yeah.
Does it say Facebook user for you too? Because it says don't leave me now, but I don't know what it is. It says Facebook user.
Yeah.
So you gotta say I'm so and so.
Yeah. It does say
Otherwise we don't
Facebook
know.
user. I believe in equality though, so I think all Facebook users should be treated the same, regardless.
Touche. Touche.
Oh man, there's some way that you log in on Facebook and it allows you to see that, and I think you have to like allow StreamYard in your settings or something, but it doesn't ask you to allow StreamYard if you're just like commenting on the post. So if you have
Oh yeah.
StreamYard allowed on your Facebook and you comment, then it grabs your details and pushes them to StreamYard. But if you don't, then it says Facebook user. Oh, it's my dad. I kind of figured when it said stand by who you are until you're not that it was my dad. So yeah, thanks, Dad. You've actually given me several things that I had to think about for a really long time. And wherever you go, there you are.
Is that one of them?
Still fucking true. What I mean, it keeps being fucking true. Turns out.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, I thought it was a fucking joke for like the longest time, but over the last like 10 years of my life, I've certainly come to realize an inordinate amount of wisdom inside of the statement. I really completely thought it was a joke, which now I think is really good, honestly, because like now the joke is turned around because it's like I could have known this all along, but I thought it was a joke, and that's how much of a joke that I am that I now get the joke, and that's a joke. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. So it's perfect though. Like I'm one thing that's very beneficial about the place where I feel I have reached is that like I'm totally okay with like fucking up and just laughing at myself. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow, you've been screwing that up for 15 years and 10,000 efforts, and you just now noticed today. That's pretty funny. Like, that's pretty funny. I can't believe it got
Yeah.
past you for so long. That's kind of incredible. You have to sort of respect it for its
Oh
ability
yeah, no
to,
doubt.
avoid your awareness. So
Yeah, no kidding. And then
yeah.
say my dad used to say, I'm trying to think something along those lines similar, because there's a handful of things my dad used to say that they've always resonated with me. And it's not whether about like, whether your dad lived that or not. Like, so my dad did for the most part on certain things, but it's like you always find our parents are hypocrites, or any person, but if what they're saying is true, that's what matters, is to actually resonate.
Yeah.
Like one of the things my dad used to say, was you don't need to create any drama. Like life has enough drama for itself. You don't need to be around people who stir up drama for no reason. Life has enough drama for itself. That's always been true. It's always been just like that. Those words go through my mind with boundaries with people, like just whatever about how they are. It's just true. Life has got enough emotions and drama and shit. I think about it a lot.
Joe's dad said something down a similar vein. He's down here right now, and we were just like sitting outside, and he was like, I'll tell you one of the secrets to life. And it's like, just some point in time in your life, you're going to realize that you're better off just being nice to other people. And like me and Joe are just like, why is that? Right away, because we're the Y type. And he was like, because it works better. Like, it was just very simple. It was like, because it works better, dude. Like, there's no real reason.
You could say because it makes you feel better. You could say whatever you want to say. But yeah, it just works better at getting along with people. And like, yeah, it's just more effective. It really is. You could totally take the emotion out of it, man.
Than be mean to people.
It's true.
I've had it with the being mean. Like, I lived a lot of my life with like a lot of angst and a lot of like in a certain way. For a while in my life, I glorified this like feeling inside myself of like being ready for the battle right now. Like I was like in the process of jumping into the fight, regardless of whether there was a fight. And like, I reap the effects of it at this point in time, very much so. Like I experience where it was in my body now that I try to not have it. I feel these, I feel stuff, you know what I mean? And I know that it's like that same thing. And I'm just like, I don't do that anymore. And a certain part of me wants to be that. But I think that really like wanting to be that is more out of like a habituation that I'm trying to break. So in certain ways, it feels like trying to get off of like a drug in certain ways, but the drug I'm trying to get off of is basically like cortisol and norepinephrine and shit that's created out of stress from feeling like I'm about to go into battle in the next like 3 seconds and I'll fuck up any motherfucker that steps to this. And I'm ready. Like there's no fucking way they're more ready than me. The fight started 10 minutes ago for me.
Yeah.
Like it's not even going to start for another 5 minutes, and it started 10 minutes ago for me. So I'm fucking prepared. You know what I mean? And like, I like in certain ways, I liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't anymore, but like a certain part of me, unconscious, kind of like a habituation or addiction, still like yearns for it. And I actually have to like very consciously and actively be like, you do not get that. I can't not be it easily. And if I can't not be it easily, then it has a pull on me that I'm not interested in something having on me. So like I'm going to break it. When I break it, I might like utilize it more often. But the way that I break these things is I starve them the fuck out, dude. You siege them like a city. I know how to win this fight. I've been fighting all forever. And like, so it's easy for me to do things like that. Like I know how to do that. What I don't know how to do is not fight. I fucking suck at not fighting. I suck at being like, damn, shit's going good right now. I could like actually just chill out and like not fucking do anything tonight.
Right.
The whole night. I'm like, oh man, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And I fucking basically just kept on like turning this into another thing and another thing all throughout my life. The better my life gets, the more I just find things like outside of myself. And that's why in recent times, in many ways, I've really just like the whole like conspiracy theories, QAnons, what's going on with politics, entertainment, Pizzagate, any of this shit. Like I don't do it. It's not a thing that I do right now. Like I'm not interested in the fight. I know where I stand, just say no to pedophiles. That's where I basically stand. And you know, like I'll be a lot more interested in politics when we get an actual good option rather than an argument over like which option is like less bad. You know what I mean? Then I'd be
Which
more
one's less of
interested
a
in stuff
joke?
like that. But like I'm just I'm over it, dude. Like I fought enough, I lost enough, I won enough, I've seen it, I'm good. I want to just like be able to chill and
Yeah.
ugh,
Yeah,
I can't,
I
I
was thinking
suck at
about
it
that too.
bad.
Even in a positive way. Well, I think maybe like well, I don't know, maybe it's first world American, or American human beings. I don't know, but like the drive, and maybe it's more fundamental and human. But when you don't have to fight for survival, and I guess I didn't mean I don't think this gets political at all. I meant it more general philosophical. This like was it the socialist dynamic or whatever, where you know everybody's been given money and you don't have to work to feed or whatever. Everybody gets lazy and don't inspire, and I don't believe that at all. But I do think there's something into when you lose some kind of drive to fight to become better. It's not or even become good at a skill set, right? Painting or fishing, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Some kind of fight or drive. There's just I don't know. There's just can you exist in this place in life where you're not driving or pushing towards something and being cool? Maybe for a little bit, maybe like you coast on some old shit, but
I
like,
feel like the
can
potential
you
is
really exist there very
possible.
long?
I can't say from like a personal position that's like a hard yes for me because like I don't even really like want to operate like that. I like driving towards things. I just think
Right,
it's
right.
enjoyable, you know?
Well, right, but
So
then the problem is finding when you're in a place where you don't have things you're driving towards for whatever reason. When you've
yeah, you
lost
just
like
make
that.
another
Okay,
one up though. You know, you just
well,
like pick
right,
another one.
you should, but in the place even right now, the more deeper existential level, because when you're inside of a paradigm that is lifelong, whatever that belief system is,
Well, that's a lot of the
there's
reason why
something
I'm doing
was
like I've been doing kind of like a coming back down to earth or like grounding myself over recent times is because like if I'm looking at everything and going like, oh, it's all like kind of inconsequential and doesn't matter, it's not worth the time or whatever. Like I'm probably just viewing it from like too wide out. You know what I mean? I need to like
yeah.
let myself just like get back down into human Zach a little bit more.
Yeah,
And then it's
yeah,
like pretty easy to find shit that's like, well, I would like to be pretty awesome at that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I can find
Yeah.
video games I want to play, despite the fact that the current state of video games in the world is maybe the most atrocious it's ever been. It's really weird. You know what I mean? So there like are things that like when I allow myself to, video games are like gonna save me again. They always do, but in a certain way, they're like this like leash into just like being fucking normal and not needing to be something more than that in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And that's very beneficial for me at this point in time. And, you know, where I like can run into problems is like tempering doing that with like doing other shit. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
because like it turns out that like playing video games 24 hours a day and not doing anything else is not actually a sustainable methodology unless you have like you're a streamer or something, but I'm not. So that's
Yeah.
not real life, you know?
Your dad said coasting on some old shit is a good thing, but the future is better.
Yeah.
Well, it's like trying to find a timeline, or at least an anchor and a vector that heads towards a timeline that gives me drive to pursue. And you know, like that's part of it, the dog dynamic, 'cause it would get me in daily, like you're saying, being grounded.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what I think or how I feel about life, so far, 1 second comes after another, and there's 60 in a minute, and there's 60 of those in an hour, and tomorrow will be the next day, and then bills are due as a thing, and life and encounters and whatever. So like that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And even though those cognitive processes have been churning for, I don't know, a solid 6 months, and happenings and getting frameworks for a dog, for example, would be something. One, it's that infinite love and oxytocin release, right? Unconditional love, like from a
Sure.
puppy, from a dog. And I don't see any reason that at this point, unless some miracle dog I run into that happens to be the right dog, and for whatever reason, I would be getting a little palm just like I had before, because it can go with me everywhere, anywhere I travel, on planes, free, right on my lap or under the seat, quiet, just
Yeah.
like great. And just the love, like palms are just wonderful dogs. So we've had a palm
Sure.
for a decade, like great dogs. And so I get that release, I get that need. So then if there's any like
Helps that
the,
dog's basically a pussy magnet too.
Well, the other part of what I was saying is like then I don't have to think or consider relationships in the same way. I get a lot of like the cuddle love like makes me happy.
Sure.
So I'm not like at a
It'll help you on
subconscious
both
level or
sides of the
whatever
ball is kind of
looking.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's that, yeah, I guess it'd be that too. But it's still a thing. It's like it's one thing to like, oh, I have a dog. It's like no, like if you have a dog, you have to. It's a living being. You have to take care of, and it's a thing.
Yeah.
So it gets grounded into daily, everyday Earth reality things. So no matter how I'm feeling existentially or whatever project or something I'm trying to put my focus into, this dog is helping keeping me on some progressive
Yeah.
schedule that gives me time to figure that other shit out. Even or I'll make some movement.
While you're saying this, I'm realizing like I can't realistically talk from a position of even not having a dog, because I've had a dog every day of my life since for like the 17 years or something like that.
Interesting.
I don't know what it's like to not have a dog.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, think
Yeah.
about it now because like that's part of it for me. There's literally I don't have to go home certain days. Like if I end up passing out, like there's a lot of time I've spent sleeping in my van and like just
Yeah.
whatever, get up, go back to work. I've done a lot of that shit over time. Like there's no way I could do that if I even had a dog. You've never even had a life where that's been an option, but the dog's always been with you. You've been living a gypsy lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they had more of the car than I did in the first place. They basically took up like the
Makes
whole
sense.
back. They had a place to sleep in the car, and we slept in a fucking tent outside the car. They had better than us. It was good though. My
Yeah.
one dog, Sasha, deserved it, dude. Like I would put her, if I was able to go back and do things, like I probably would have got a better job so I could put her up in a nicer hotel whenever we stayed anywhere. Like
Sure.
I don't know. Like I fucking gave that dog a really good life, but
Yeah.
now having like gone through the whole life cycle of it, like fuck, man. I don't know. There's not a point where I would have been like, all right, I did enough for that dog. I would always permanently just be like, fuck, I wish I could have done more. And I know that, you know what I mean? But I also know at the same time that like, I functionally like saved this dog from a not so great position to begin with. And then it got a wonderful lifestyle. And whenever it had any problems, they got fixed right away. And it got like, for like the end of the prime of its life, where it was like the end of its like years as a young dog, you know what I mean? For the end of its years as a young dog, it fucking lived in the desert the whole time with another pit bull that was young, and they were like, they had completely free roam. Like I basically did not have rules, you know what I mean? Because I was like, fuck you, society. I don't listen to you at all. My dogs do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got a problem with my dog, you should probably take it up with my dog. By the way, you do anything to my dog, I do know how to bury a body in the desert.
Yeah.
I've literally told people this.
Yeah.
Word for fucking word. And I'm not kidding either, dude. Like, whoo, man. Somebody, man, whoo. If somebody would have kicked Sasha in her fucking mouth in front of me, oh my God. I don't know that at that point in time in my life, I actually could have stopped myself from not probably murdering them. It would have been a problem.
Yeah.
Dude, I like that dog. That dog was like, and I don't know, too important, arguably, to me. I spent a long time, the last like many years, going through a lot of processes of going like, all right, bro, like like your dog is going to die, and you are way too attached, and you need to do something about that. Otherwise, you are going to have a fucking problem when your dog dies, which is inevitable. You know what I mean? And so like, thank God. I thank God. I don't thank God at all. I thank my goddamn self and my ability somehow. I don't know why, and I don't even know that I consider it a gift, but I seem to get alerted by my consciousness that things that are important to me are going to die somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 years before they die. They're like real close to 7 years. And like, I just know, and like I have an experience of their death. And then like 7 years later, it actually happens. And a lot of this, I mean, there's a whole bunch of confirmational feelings, but in all the situations where this has happened, I very much so spent the time in between there, like preparing for that to happen. Like I believe in like my dreams and my experiences, that they are real when they feel real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's dude, I told you I had a dream the other night. I said something to you about it. I still don't really actually want to talk about it, to be honest.
Right, fair enough.
But like, man, for 30 years or something, I've been like lucid inside of dreams, able to like control what I do completely, wake myself up, get out of the dream. If anything felt like it was like kind of hairy or anything like that, I was lucid, but I couldn't get out of the dream. And it kept changing so much that I kind of like couldn't remember whether I was in a dream or whether this was like real life now. And I kind of like fucking freaked out and started just like in the midst of this dream, just like I was screaming, like lucidly, I was screaming at myself, like, wake up, wake the fuck up. Like, and I was in the middle of like there was a bunch of people around, like this downtown city area. And like the fucked up thing about it, dude, is like I don't have a lot of. So I've had a handful of dreams in my life that felt very real. And the symbolic correlation of them moving forward in my life has seemed as though perhaps they were real on some level. Maybe not exactly the way that I experienced them, but that they kind of like, much like, the ancient esoteric cultures used to think that like a comet or an eclipse like heralds the coming of some type of event. These kinds of dreams that feel real like this, like they have that harrowing of an event. But in this case, it was like even worse because like the harrowing, the realness part was like the early part of the dream, but it got so much deeper than that after it, to the point where like I don't get fucking scared in dreams, but like I like couldn't remember whether I was awake or asleep. And like I kind of lost my shit. So I was like, one way to find out, just freak the fuck out and wake yourself up. Right.
Sure. Okay.
But then I just like freaked the fuck out and like I was still there. And I was like, fuck, dude, this might be like, is this fucking real life? And like I wasn't sure whether it was real life, but then like lots of weird shit happened and like I had no idea where I was or what I was doing.
How much? Okay, to give me a framework
like
for your
very
mindset in that
different
too.
place, but it felt very real. It was it was weird.
How long? Like the time frame within that dream were you there realizing this might be real? Did it seem like minutes,
felt like
hours?
A very long time. Like at least a whole day passed in the dream after I tried to wake myself up but failed miserably. And it was a day trying to find my way back to a place that, well, seemingly was actually in a completely different reality.
When you woke up, did it shock you when you woke up that wasn't real? Because like
I woke up and said audibly, very loud enough to wake up Jen sleeping next to me, "Oh, thank fucking God
that it wasn't real." Because that's the moment you knew.
When
Until
I
then, you were committed.
Woke up and I like opened my eyes and I saw like my roof, like my normal roof. I was like, oh fuck, okay, good. It's not actually real. Like I was pretty much at the point where I was convinced that like this is just what I'm experiencing now, and I for some reason don't have a continuum for like really how this happened.
Yeah. Okay, this is really like it's funny because as you talk about it, like I viscerally envision it, and like I don't know, it's like trying to enter into that hollow program you're creating. So you were cognitively in the mindset for like a day that this was real and trying to make sense of that reality, or just be living in that reality because it made sense, because you accepted that was real. Then you wake up and you, in a moment, then everything snaps back. You realize it was a dream. Thank God this part's real. Whatever this part that you're in now that's consistent, has been consistent for 30 some odd years, seem to be every day.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that like this reality felt like just as substantial as this one. They normally do not.
Crazy.
There is a distinct difference. Like I know when I'm in a dream, this did not feel like one, my friend. Very
super interesting.
Weird. And then it was like, well, there's a lot of weird shit with dreams that for this to kind of have relevance, I would probably need to go a lot more into my work with dreams. But there was riddles in this reality, which is like, that's kind of an important factor. I ended up asking this like little girl, like, I don't know, intuition told me that she was going to be able to communicate with me, and she could speak English. But like I asked her like, what is this place? And she just said like, don't worry, like as long as you know the difference between a goat and a knave, you'll be fine. What?
Maybe like a whole bunch of minor metaphorical meanings, but like, what's it mean? What did it mean in the dream? So you were contemplating that whole time?
I don't know what it means.
Aware of that reality?
It's some part of, like, from my like standpoint of dream analysis, coming from like a logical, so like very like psychoanalytical logical standpoint.
Yeah.
The girl represents a part of my brain that I kind of lack the logical structure to understand at this point in time. So the interface with her is coded behind a riddle that like seems to have answers, but those answers, I mean, it's a fucking riddle. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like a passworded door or like a lock on a door. You know what I mean? And I've
Yeah, yeah.
found in my own personal experience that through solving these riddles, we can oftentimes uncover different layers of these dream realities, be they a projection of our mind or something more. But there's a lot of times where I have had things provide me with a riddle, but when the reality feels real and things are providing you with a riddle, it's a little more substantial than I think your average Joe would like a dream to be. We'd like to believe, especially if you're a person that has nightmares or night terrors, that that shit is fake and not really happening. And my data from experiences like this doesn't fully agree with that. And that's kind of fucking terrifying in certain ways. Realize the kind of night terrors that other people have, that shit don't scare me at all. Like, I have those dreams sometimes, but I like trape around very like confidently. It's not stuff like that that scares me at all insides of dreams. Like, I understand what that stuff is, but this like displacement of reality and confusion, in so much as I didn't know what my consensus was anymore, was like, I guess, a type of perturbation that my psychology is really like not okay with. And I realize in a lot of ways, like, part of what is restricting me from doing what I want to do is an attachment to like a knowing that goes down this line, right? Like, I have to release that knowing, and I could probably find what that knowing was if I could solve the stupid goat and a knave thing. I will solve it. I solve all of these. I've solved riddles that I could not even explain to other people. This is like, this is what I do. If there's anything that I'm highly talented at, it's cracking an incredibly difficult riddle. This is why I love Elizabethan era poetry, because I can like read the riddle in real time. And I think it's a certain way of experiencing the stuff that is in many ways like lost. And
yeah, totally.
I don't know. I'm kind of like stepped away from spirituality in a lot of ways right now, but I get a little bit spiritual like in that space. I think it does something for the world to recognize like true art, like real art. And that's like, most art's not real art, in my opinion, but real art, of which the works of Shakespeare are real art, you know, and the other people that were like the contemporaries around him, they're doing something different. It's not like a play that they wrote or a painting that they drew. It's their whole life expressed onto a page through carefully chosen mediums, perfectly placed and properly aligned, saying exactly what they aren't saying so that they can, right on Front Street, say exactly what they know they should say but never would. And oh, it's just so amazing, dude. That's real art. Like, I don't, most artists suck dick. Most of them. Most artists are not artists. They just draw shit or they write shit or whatever. They're not really like artists. There's like whole nother layer. And I love it, dude. I love it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyways, I'll crack the riddle eventually. I already have like 20 answers for it. I thought the reason why I know I don't know is because inside the dream, I felt I knew immediately. I was like, what, are you stupid? Of course I know the difference between a goat and a knave. Like, one's an animal, one's a human. It's very easy, right? Like, moving on. And well, they did willfully take me across a threshold into another area of the dream. So on one level, that was an accurate answer to the riddle, but I'm quite positive, based on how quickly I answered and how little time I took to think about it, that wasn't the last answer. It wasn't the only answer. It was the first answer. And I know from the reaction of the things inside of the dream upon stepping out of that newly thresholded space that I didn't answer the riddle properly to get to the next area because they were very rude. And then when I left from there, I felt very lost. And then like it became very problematic. But it's because I was like, well, if you're looking at all of this from like a psychoanalytical place where all of it is very much so like a navigation of your own mind, I was
Mhm.
just like, I was in a place of my mind that I don't know anything about. You know what I mean? And that's pretty
Yeah.
intriguing to me because I spent a lot of fucking time wandering around this fucking shitty ass mind. Like there is a lot of weird dark corners, and there's been like a lot of difficult things that had to like end up happening in order to get me willing to explore some of the corners inside of my own mind. And so like the
Yeah.
concept that there still is like something else to see is kind of intriguing to me. I'm very much so like did have like a bit of boredom, so I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah.
That intrigue, I realize I haven't been intrigued for like a really long time because it like when the wave of that experience first came across me, it was terrifying.
Mm.
You know, I can see like some positives inside of it now that like the wave hit me, but it didn't crush me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm picking up some positives from inside of it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, like the next day after that, I end up with this fucking pinched nerve, which is like causing big time problems. The next day after that, Saturn goes back direct. The next day
Right.
after that is the harvest full moon on October 1st, and Donald Trump gets diagnosed with COVID. Related?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know when I have dreams like this, the implications are not just inside the dream. They never have been, never once. And I have absolutely no reason to believe that it's not an echo in eternity in some way.
Yeah.
Something's changing, dude. I have no idea what. And if anybody like wants to know, don't ask me because I don't know and I don't care to know. I would rather take
Yeah.
this wave facing it with my eyes closed and watch it blast me in the face and be fine anyways. I don't care anymore. So
Yeah.
don't look to me to be your lighthouse in any capacity. You know what I
That
mean?
said,
Like
you had a
I'm
dream that indicates the change that you're talking about, not caring about knowing. Yet there is some insight to
it's
knowing.
happening. Oh, I never
Yeah.
in certain ways I never cared to know. I felt a responsibility to figure it out once I was aware. But I've seen many of these, for lack of a better word, waves,
Yeah.
and something's changing. And when I say that, I'm not talking very small. I don't know
Yeah.
what. I don't
Well, we're
care
coming
what.
up on the end of Pluto retrograde, right? Doesn't that go back direct to this month in October?
All kinds of timings are perfect, right? You know, you
Yeah.
got Pluto retrograde ending, Saturn retrograde ending. It's almost like election
Yeah.
time. There's
Yeah. No doubt.
on and on and on and on and on reasons why right now would be a perfect time for things to, you know, change or whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
it's
Interesting.
sensible. Yeah.
So
You just gotta
then
understand the difference between a goat and a knave and you'll be fine.
that's what I was about to say. Okay, so one of the dynamics I thought of, so they're both titles you can give to a person, though, even though yeah,
Sure.
one could be an animal, but you could call someone a goat and call them a knave, and then the differentiating between the differences between the colloquial nuances that come with each term. I think both of them typically are negative terms, right? Knave is maybe denotes more of someone who's
Now,
a
if you're taking
thief
goat as like
or
an abbreviation for greatest of all time,
okay, well then you're in your
there's
own.
a
Is that what it
huge
means to
difference
you?
between greatest of all time and a knave. A knave is like the
Yeah, no
worst of
doubt.
all time. You know what I mean? He's like a
Right.
woat. So
When it was
I
like, okay, so
when
it's
I
one thing to know
originally
the
heard it, I
difference.
went, one's an animal, one's a stupid person. That was like my knee-jerk reaction. But
Uh-huh.
upon further inspection, I also recognized like the acronym angle as well, trying to find like positive skews for goats and
Right.
knaves.
Right. So trying to think what a good differentiation would be. So gray's fault. I mean, it's one thing to differentiate between obviously some clear divides. Another thing to have to differentiate something that looks very similar.
Yeah.
So that's why if they're both negative terms, that'd be interesting. Or it's supposed to be that clear. I don't know. That is really interesting
I don't
terminology, isn't?
goat doesn't strike me as negative at all personally. Like when I hear it, like I really like goats the animal.
Yeah. So well, that's what I was gonna say. What's your life association with goats? Obviously, all that matters
They're
too.
pretty dope. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
like
tell me
they'll eat your fucking
about goats.
clothes if you're not paying attention. They stink. You know, they're a little. They're confident of their space, oftentimes. You know, so they like.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like associate anything bad with a goat.
Well, they also have those cool
I always like
ass
them.
horizontal eyes.
Yeah.
or our irises or pupils.
The only thing I even can think of that's like would be negative at all would be like the Baphometic Luciferian Association, and like that's not really me. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I was alchemy before I ever even like poked my head into either of those things. So I saw those things and I was like, oh, okay, they're bastardizations of alchemy, no problem. Like, not really interested, to be honest.
It's nice to hear you say that, because it's like it really is that easy. It's like, oh, but
Yeah.
that's all this, and it's like, yeah, there's stuff you can avoid. You're just not in certain things. You can look into it. It doesn't affect you. It's just not your thing.
It's just a
You
story
know?
format of alchemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. It's not like that's
Interesting.
fine. It's a good way to understand it for a person who doesn't like have like a very logical, scientific, going to compartmentalize the data over here kind of mind. It actually benefits a lot from having a story to interpolate that kind of data, especially a data set that's as rich as alchemy, which is arguably like infinitely rich. That's kind of the point of alchemy, is the ability to transmute anything to anything. And so, alchemy at its height should be functionally infinitely applicable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it makes more sense through a story a lot of time.
Yeah.
So both of them, all religions, functionally, at their core, have they seek the same thing. They seek apotheosis. They seek to be like becoming God, or coming to know God. And realize when we say coming to know God, the same places as say coming to know God, it really means to like have God inside your head and you're inside God's head. Like you are the fucking Godhead. You are knowing like God. It's not
Intimate
like,
knowing,
oh shit, I know that guy. Yes, I think I'm actually following him on Instagram.
no
It's
doubt.
not like
Yeah,
that. It's like to intimately motherfucking know the dude, so you functionally like become them in a certain way. And so really all of them seek apotheosis, and as a byproduct of that, I mean, alchemy is all about like apotheosis really at its core, but like even done on a low level of like take something shitty, make it into something good. You know what I mean? And it's just a very functional set of ways of looking at things. Like functionally, like everything's going through a progressive operation. Every human, regardless of wherever they start, has accomplished much less than wherever they end. So functionally, they've made something out of nothing over the course of their life. And as a byproduct of that, like you can go about living your life never thinking about alchemy and not attempting to practice it at all, and your entire life will be dedicated to alchemy, actually, because your entire life will be an alchemical transmutation of something that was nothing before, becoming something that has done all kinds of things in the end, and that thing is functionally an escalation or a coagulation of what that experience was over the course of it. So like it's an alchemical transmutation in function, whether you like it or not. And like, the whole concept that alchemy is about something specific, that's fucking hyperbole. This is postulated by people who don't practice alchemy. They practice shining a bad light on alchemy. That's what they practice. There's no reason to do that. Like
it's so
alchemy
funny
at its
that
core doesn't make any claim to be like special or like it's segmented or like you can only think about this, or if you believe this, you can't believe these other things. It doesn't give a fuck about that. It's totally not like that. It's like, if you believe in this, you can probably explain everything else with it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Which one's right? That's a good question. Once like all of them can explain each other, I don't know. Maybe none of these things are right. I think that's kind of where a person who studies alchemy for a long time gets to, is that they realize like, yeah, there's a lot of stories. And like, that's cool. That's what it is. It's like a lot of stories. You know what I mean? They don't need to be right or anything. It's just more like, whoa, look at all the stories. There's so many different ways of looking at it. But
what
it's
messages
all
are you
looking at
getting
it.
from those stories?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The messages that they're getting are functionally the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
packaged in
they're all
different
just
ways.
different ways of looking at it. And so it doesn't change. You just look at it from different sides. It's not any different. And alchemy is just like the process of looking at it, right? Like it doesn't claim any allegiance really to anything, although there is obviously some like offshooting allegiance and shit like that. But it doesn't claim allegiance in and of itself. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Interesting video on plasma experiments on zero gravity, and you guys are my go-to for more insight. Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen plasma experiments in 0G, so I'd
Zero
be interested to
gravity.
see them. That's
Yeah,
always
so
been kind
then
of a question regarding, like, even when I showed like those primer field things, like
mhm,
obviously doing it in a vacuum, we're trying to create a zero air space, which would functionally be zero gravity, right? You're like, it's a
yeah.
complete vacuum would be zero gravity. But like, you can't. We don't have the technology. We can get close, you know what I mean? But that,
Mhm.
like, there's a big difference between 99.9% and 100% when it comes to something like this, because it's not like it's mostly there. It's either there or not there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
like, it's mostly there. It's just as far as anything else, really.
Usually, yeah.
You know, it's probably not the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Hey, I'll send you that. I'll send the video. Chris sent me the link. So I'll forward that to you. Whatever the one he's talking about, I'm assuming the plasma, 0G and plasma experiments. Yeah, it'd be cool
okay.
to see.
Yeah, and then after I watch it, I'll just happily give my thoughts on it. And
Yeah.
then we can, like, send you that clip or something. Or maybe you'll just be watching when we talk about it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
am gonna go though and get my back worked on.
Yeah.
And thanks
Cool,
for
man.
talking to me. I do actually feel a lot better, which was completely unexpected. Like, really,
Nice to have one of those nights. Yeah, no doubt. Especially,
I
yeah.
like I was gonna get on here and be like, "Yep, sorry guys, I gotta go. I really don't feel like doing this right now." And
Yeah. Which you're always
worked
free to
out
do.
fine
But
though.
yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool that
So
worked out. Cool, man. Well, I
yeah, I
appreciate
feel
you
quite
sticking out a little bit and
now.
glad you feel better.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll be back tomorrow night. Maybe we won't. I'm not sure. We've been being quite a bit looser with it nowadays. There's
Yeah.
a million things that a person could be doing in their life. So if we're not around
And
to do
it
something, let's do something else.
yeah. And it is in the vortex. Actually, I've got to talk to Adam. I think I messaged him back and forth, and I got to get back with his last messages. But I think he'd be happy to come on the show again soon. So that'll be I think we like his third time or fourth time, which would be cool. Just throw that whatever that conversation goes, and other people that's
Cool.
in the mix. It's just in the mix.
Yep.
Look
Stuff
for
will
tomorrow.
happen in the future, undoubtedly. So
Yep.
we will see you around. I hope you all have a good night. And I think it is actually like a full moon and stuff. So if you're into that
Yeah.
kind of shit, maybe a little friendly
Aries.
reminder to do something with that stuff. Despite my lack of spirituality, that doesn't stop me from doing shit like that. So
That's right. Grew up
nevertheless,
going out in the moon, the desert with your
yeah.
mom.
Well, I mean, I might not be spiritual, but that doesn't mean that I'm not like part wolf, which I'm pretty sure I am. So
Awesome.
it kind of works out that way. Anyways, that's probably from part of my upbringing. I'm pretty sure I was raised by wolves, or at least like wolves in human clothing. So nevertheless,
Cool.
I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Don't forget to howl at the moon and be yourself. And I love you all. And thanks for being here. Bye.
Love you guys. Yep.